Welcome to Hannah's Heart.
So Hannah, she's just one of the women who did struggle with infertility in the Bible.
No matter who we are, we can be inspired by the fact that Hannah took her pain to God, and God heard her and was with her.
So when she was praying at the temple, she had been weeping and not eating, and her lips were moving, but her eyes were closed, and the priest was like, "Hey, why are you drunk at the temple?"
It can become an obsession when you want a child so deeply.
And desiring that baby and to be a mama. Every holiday, every Mother's Day.
This is not a show that's going to promise you a certain outcome, but this is a show that says, however God answers your cry, we know that He's enough.
Hey, I'm Ann.
And I'm Kendra, and you're listening to Hannah's Heart on American Family Radio. We're a show to help couples that struggle with infertility or miscarriage, and we've grown to talk about child loss, adoption, fertility treatments, all of the things. And we just want to encourage you to cling to Christ in the middle of your journey, that there really is hope on the hardest days.
Yeah. Today we have a returning guest. She was on last week as well. So if you haven't listened to last week, that doesn't mean don't listen in today. But if you're able to, go listen to the first part of Bekka's story. We ended that program with her getting to the point of her baby passing away at 19 weeks.
And she knew all along she had this feeling and this sense of something is wrong, and just the frustrations of physicians and nurses and doctors not listening to her, not making her think that she was crazy. And this was all after a season of infertility, of trying to conceive actively for a whole year, and then finally having that pregnancy. And
so we have on Bekka Clayton. Yes. Before we keep talking, Bekka, are you still here with us?
Yeah, I am. Hi.
Hey, as you were telling so much of your story, I just was having flashbacks of the day I was in the hospital. I had gone in for a checkup with John Micah, thinking that they were going to tell me the same thing, like everything's fine. You're overthinking this. You don't need to pay attention to that, because I had called the hospital, I'd called my doctor, I'd talked to friends, said, movement feels different. Something just feels off. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but something just doesn't feel right. And it, looking back, I have struggled with that. I don't know if that has been something personally that you've struggled with, but I'm like, who was I listening to? Like, did I not give the Holy Spirit enough credit right there to make me think like, okay, I'm being crazy? And I did. I had friends. I'd actually talked to a doula and to a nurse, and they both were like, "Oh, Ann, you're 26 weeks. Sometimes you don't feel as much movement. Sometimes, And now looking back, I'm like, there were at least 4 days that I knew something didn't feel right. And of course, if there's anything I could do over again in my life, it would have been to immediately. I was at work when I started feeling something different, but it would be to leave work and to immediately go to the hospital. And I can't help but wonder, would things have looked a little different?
But to be fair to you, Ann, everybody tells you you're crazy and can make you, and there's so many articles and things about mamas, this anxiety, like this just happens.
Right.
And I do think there's an aspect of anxiety that, because I struggled with that during my pregnancy after a loss. The whole time I had that feeling of dread, and I did get to hold that baby, but it's so hard in that moment to know.
Distinguish.
It is so hard to be discerning and say, is this the Holy Spirit, or is this the enemy trying to fill my mind with fear? And those feelings can be very similar, but I do believe that God does speak to us as women, and we have a connection to that baby that other people don't understand.
That's right.
Anything you want to add to that, Bekka?
Yeah, I mean, part of that too is like, as humans, we just can't comprehend death, and especially not like the death of a baby. So we try to like almost wish it away by saying, no, it's fine. So it's as much about reassuring like me as much as it is like me trying to reassure the pregnant woman. Like I'm trying to reassure myself, like, no, everything is fine for her. She's not going to experience anything bad. So we're just trying to like convince ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Make everyone
not
comfortable.
Coming from any place of knowledge. Yeah. There's not really any basis there.
One thing that really helped me deal with my anxiety, Bekka, you shared in the last program about the hymn that "It Is Well With My Soul." When my mind would start to race with those what ifs, if this could happen, sometimes I would lean into it and say, okay, if I did lose my baby, would God still be there for me?
Yeah.
Would He be enough?
Yeah.
And even though that seems really dark to go there, to me, it was still helpful to think through, even if the worst imaginable imagination of my mind does happen, I know that Christ will be there for me. And that's what
Yes.
that psalm that God gave you. I love that.
And that is huge, because that's kind of where I've arrived now. I mean, I've had 2 pregnancies since we lost Miles, and of course, there's always that feeling of like, what if I lose another one?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it feels dark, but I just kind of go, we'll keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll be okay. We'll be okay. Yeah, it will be hard. Like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be sad, but ultimately, that's not in my control.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to like let go of
Surrender.
the feeling of trying to control that and decide, what would I do?
Yeah.
How am I going to move through that?
Yeah.
It's your only responsibility in that, really.
Well,
And the thing about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna get us back to your story. You were into the part of,
Yeah.
just found out that, Miles' heartbeat had stopped and your husband had come through, the doctor's office there without a COVID mask on and all that, but you were thankful that he did not find out that your baby had passed away over the phone. So do
And
you
they were
mind?
offering you options that you were
Yes,
talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah. Yeah, they offered us, they were kind of like, you can book a surgical procedure like a DNC. I'm sure a lot of your audience knows about that, but it's basically where they just dilate you artificially and like remove the body. And they offered me a C-section, which seems very wild, considering I was only 19 weeks, so he was very small. It would have been a huge surgery to undergo. Or they offered me like an induction. And I'm somebody who like appreciates physiological birth. I had an unmedicated birth with my firstborn. And so of course I was like, my idea around that was like, whatever birth requires of me, whatever it requires me to feel or move through, I want to. And I didn't even realize at the time with my first how huge that is in playing a role in like the type of mother you become. Like if you allow birth to transform you by not numbing out parts of it or trying to skip parts of it or like, medically induced parts of it, like you just transform as a mother so beautifully. And I said, it's the same for this baby. I was like, if he'd have lived, I was going to have an unmedicated birth and feel all the things. So like, why would I do this any differently just because he's died? Like I still owe this to him. And this is like one more thing I get to do for him. And so they were like, well, labor and delivery is currently full. So why don't you guys go home, get your things in order. We'll call you and there's an open room.
Oh my goodness.
So, the logistics of it that people don't always think about is like, first of all, we had to drive home. I had to leave my car. We were like, how do we pick up our kid from school? He was at daycare. I was like, we got to call, my in-laws who live nearby and see if they can help. And can they keep him while I'm in the hospital? And then you go home and you're like, oh, I have to wash these dishes before I go to the hospital. And like these mundane tasks of life that just keep going. And they feel so cruel in those moments that you have to like go to the grocery store and buy dinner while you're still pregnant with your baby that has already died. But I also, years later, not at the time, but I have found so much peace in having had those moments because like I took some belly bump pictures. I was able to just like sit in there in my grief and just think about like what even just happened, like what the heck happened and what do I do? And I instantly, and I don't know if this was, I mean, obviously this was the Holy Spirit working, but I feel like he'd been preparing me for this moment. I instantly was like, I'm asking for help. I'm leaning on my community, and I'm not a person to ask for help, and I haven't been, but I was like, people love me and people want to help me. So, whether it was my in-laws being like, please pick up and keep our child, Killian, please keep him for the next 3 days. We're going to the hospital. And we had told them what had happened. Or I was like, I messaged my best friend. I was like, I need you to look up, like, what is this baby going to look like? What size are they going to be? What am I going to be asked to do with his body and his remains? So I went to my sister-in-law. I was like, we need you to contact a funeral home and find out what our options are. Like, we just started leaning so heavily on the community. And I feel like that's the part that women miss when they walk through pregnancy loss, especially early miscarriage, because it's kept in secret, it's hidden, it's not talked about. People feel shame or guilt around it. And then women are conditioned to like do for others that they forget to stop and ask people to do for them. And it's just something that this experience gave me. Like, this experience with Miles gave me so many little gifts. And that was one of them, was like, you're allowed to ask for help, and you're allowed to expect people to want to help you in your time of need.
That's so humbling, and
when
that's the way God
yeah,
designed the body of Christ to work, that when you experience it functioning the way that God intended it to be, you sense the power of what God created when he had the body of Christ and community.
yes, yes, absolutely. And even like I look back, and there were so many people that were in my life at the time who are, 5 years down the road, no longer in my life for different reasons here and there. Some just fell away. Some, like, we had fallings out over different political leanings, but like, at the time, I can look back and think every single person who was in my life was there for this exact reason.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they showed up for me, like, so beautifully in those moments, even if we're no longer friends, or even if, like, we had a friendship breakup, whatever it was.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful that they were all there. So we went into the hospital, and so I walk, I had to pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, I'm here for an induction." They open the doors. I walk in, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're so little. When are you due?"
Read the file.
Well, it was no, exactly. And people will tell you, like, online, "Oh, it's in your chart. You don't have to put this in your birth plan. You don't have to put a sign on your door that you're going through loss. It's in your chart. It's in your chart." And I'm like, "Yep." But 13 people must ask me why I was there, and I had to tell them over and over. But they don't read your chart.
That's
Like,
brutal.
they're just not picking it up to look at it when you're sitting in front of them, because they're going to talk to you because you're a human. And I said to her, "Well, it was supposed to be October, but I guess now it's today." And her whole face just fell, and she said, "Oh, it's you."
Oh my God.
Come
And
on.
she looked to the girl next to her and said something. And she's like, no, we only had one." And she's scrambling through files and paperwork, and then she goes, "Oh yeah, here it is." Like, they just found my file. Like, they were expecting someone to come in for, like, I don't know what they call that, bereavement care something. So they took us to, like, this giant room, down a hallway, around a corner, obviously very far from the rest of labor and delivery. And they start talking about induction methods, and I just said to them, "Hold on, isn't anybody gonna, like, confirm?"
Yeah.
And they looked at me, and she said, "Confirm what?" And I just started weeping.
Come
Like,
on.
I couldn't even say the words. And she's like, "Okay, all right, yeah, okay, no, yeah, okay. We're going to get an ultrasound machine. We'll check everything out. We'll look one more time." Because, again, remember, that doctor had said to me, "I'm not seeing any cardiac activity."
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't say it wasn't there. He just said he couldn't see it. And I was just holding on to this hope,
Yeah.
like this last little thread. There's a quote. I don't know if I heard this somewhere, but I know I wrote it in one of my blog posts. And it's something like there's a fine line between, delusion and miracles. Like, miracles are just delusions that came true, because I was just like, either I'm delusional, thinking maybe everything's okay, or I'm holding out for a miracle that, like, they made a mistake here.
Yeah.
Can I
And,
just say, I think it's to your credit that you believe in a big God. Even when we sometimes believe that God can be a miracle, even when we're wrong, people might say we're delusional.
Yeah.
I just think that's a credit that you believe in a big God, and he didn't choose to heal him in that moment, but you believe in a God who can do big things. So,
Well, and Becca, I remember I was
honestly,
holding John Micah's lifeless body, and I was still in my
God could
head
bring him back.
thinking, God, like, think about what
Yeah.
the praise you would get for this. Like, and of
Yeah.
course I've come to know he's going to get praise whether John Micah was alive or not alive, and I think that John Micah's life has brought him praise in other ways now than being raised from the dead.
Yeah.
But as a mama, that
Yeah.
is the only thing you can cling to,
To
at
any
the
mamas
time.
listening, don't feel any guilt or shame if you had those thoughts of God could do this,
Yeah.
and he didn't.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know that, the way Miles' story has played out, even though still today, if God was like, "Hey, do you want me to change this and write it differently? I would tell him yes. I said,
Yeah,
please.
for sure.
Do it
Yeah,
differently.
right now.
I have a different option.
Yes, please. I would give up everything I've gained to have him back.
Yeah.
But the way it has played out and the way where it's led me and the way it's shaped our family has been really beautiful. And there's been so much praise there. And I don't know how anybody walks through this without a big God.
Yeah,
Amen.
I have
You
no
know,
idea. And the hope of heaven, because as awful as it is that they're
yes,
not here with us, there is that hope and that assurance that I will see him again one day and that you will see
yes,
Miles. And without that and just wondering, like, are they just in some abyss? Like, what if I didn't know what happens after here? I just can't imagine
yes,
that
Climbing out of that
feeling.
hole.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Real quick,
And
Bekka,
I've had conversations. Good.
you finish your thought and I'll ask my question.
I was just saying, I've had conversations with people who have expressed to me their beliefs that are not, the same as mine based in the Bible. And there have been years gone by where if somebody presented me with their belief, I wouldn't know how to graciously say to them, like, thank you, I hear you, but like, I don't believe that. But this situation taught me that because people have said,
That's
like,
so good.
oh, well, there's no heaven. He's still here with you, or he's going to come back as your next baby. And
No.
I
Oh my
learned to
goodness.
say to them,
Nope.
like, that's not true for me. I don't believe that. And that is not a thought that brings me peace. The thought that brings me peace is that he's in heaven with his great grandparents who passed away. And, my sister's lost 2 babies. They're up there too. Like, that is the thought that gives me peace. And that's what I cling to.
Yeah.
And it's just another one of those gifts, What were you going to say, Anne?
I just wanted to ask you if you're comfortable sharing if they ever gave you any information about why Miles went to be with Jesus, or if you wanted to know.
Did. So, okay, this has also been like an evolving journey. So when he was born, so I guess they did, like they inserted some medications into me and it started contractions, and labor was, relatively short and relatively easy. And I had a really incredible nurse there who was like, I don't know if they choose her specifically for bereaved patients or if she just happened to be good at it, but like she was such an angel. Her name was Courtney. I think about her all the time. She talked when I wanted like the silence to be filled. She was silent when I wanted to sit in the silence. She like touched my body, like rubbed me, held my hand, stroked my hair when I needed it, and left me alone when I needed it. Like she was so intuitive with what I needed. And that's honestly what I think about as like a doula, whether I'm supporting loss or supporting birth.
Wow.
Like it's Courtney. That's the role that I aspired to play. But so when I finally gave birth to him, they said that he was very wrapped in his cord. And at the time, that was enough for me. I was like, that was it. It was a cord accident. So it wasn't anything that I did. It wasn't anything wrong with me that create like a genetic thing I have to try to avoid. It was just some crazy random accident that yes could happen again, but cannot be like if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There's nothing I have to do or work through to make this not happen again. And that gave me a lot of peace in that time. And it's what led me into my next pregnancy outside of the medical system. Because I was like, well, if I'm not trying to stop anything, I don't have to do anything extra. We did send his body for autopsy and it didn't find anything beyond that. Now that I am, a doula and have studied birth more, I don't necessarily believe that cords wrap so tightly that they kill babies. It just wouldn't make sense biologically. Plus, there's so many protective measures in the womb. I think it's more likely that as he was in my womb and he had died, he was moving around and the cord was just lifelessly wrapping around him. And then the force of labor might have tightened it. That's more likely what I think, but I also have come to a lot of peace with like, I don't get to know. I don't need to know. It doesn't change anything. If I knew, it might make it worse. Like I always ask women, even through like prenatal care, birth, I'm like, okay, when you get this information, what are you going to do with it? How is it going to change you? Is it going to help you? Is it something you need so that you can work through the next piece? Or is it something that's just going to cause you more grief and hurt or anxiety or try to make you control a situation harder? Because sometimes like the information is not helpful. You don't need it. So that's kind of where we settled with that. And then another thing that I think not enough women realize or do that was a huge piece of healing for me in the years to come, is that we decided to bury Miles in a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned that the local funeral homes offer free, and many of them do, not just ours, but like many of them will offer free services for babies who pass
Wow.
in the womb. And they could do like a cremation, and you could take them home in an urn. I know a lot of women do that, but the fact that I was able to do that, we had a ceremony, people brought flowers, we had a flyer printed, like it humanized him so much.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a pregnancy that was lost. It was like we had a son, we buried him. Here is his grave. Like here is these physical reminders. And even my parents are far away. They don't live near me. But even we did it really quickly. He was born on a Friday. We had a funeral on a Wednesday, and my dad was like, "I can take off work and come for the funeral." And I was kind of like, "Oh, no, it's, we're having it much sooner than you could. So thank you, but you don't need to." But even just that gesture of people like wanting to come, it was like he was a person, a whole person.
Wow.
And I think when women miscarry, again, especially early, they don't get that. People just kind of go, "Oh, this is a sad circumstances. It's not like a death. It's just a sad circumstance."
That's right.
So I'm always like kind of encouraging women, like, if this feels right for you, do it. Because yes, there's no shame here. There's no like, this feels silly. Because if I could go back and change anything, it would be that. Like when I gave birth to him, and they were like, I kind of had a blanket over my legs. And so like you see in the movies, like she kind of legs up, but there's a sheet so she can't see anything down below her knees. That's exactly how I was positioned. So when he was born, she's like, "Oh, he's still in his sack. I'm going to open it up. Okay, we're going to cut the umbilical cord. We've wrapped him up. Do you want to see him?" And I felt so silly thinking like, yes, I want to see him. I want to hold him. I'm going to take pictures of him, because I had all these outside voices telling me, "You would look so crazy if you're the woman taking pictures of a dead body."
Yep.
You don't look like you're grieving if you're like, "Let me take pictures so that I can post these on social media later or put it in my blog post," right? Like, and so I just told myself, like, don't do that. Just be in the moment, which was also a good thing. But, 6 years later, I'm like, I wish I'd opened up the whole like medical towel that they'd wrapped him in. I wish I'd wrapped him in a blanket. I wish I had taken the time to like just get to know him, his whole body, and thankfully they did take some pictures. They usually partner with the organization Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, which offers free bereavement photos to parents.
Wow.
But it was 2020, so they weren't allowed in the hospital. So Courtney just took a few on a digital camera and printed them and gave them to us. But like that's my regret. It's like I didn't take full ownership over like, this is my son. I was still caught in like, what's normal here? What am I supposed to do? And they kept saying to me, "Whatever you want." Whatever. And I was like, "I don't want this. I don't want any of this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be giving birth to this baby today. Like, I don't want this." And that's one thing that I've also, like, I always want to bring forward as a doula for bereaved parents is like, not just, "Oh, whatever you want," but like, here are your real options.
And here's what you might want later.
Anyone.
It's so helpful
it
to have someone guiding you. I didn't have anyone who had been there, done that, and that definitely some of the things you're saying, I wish we would have done differently. I was almost scared of John Micah. I don't think I've ever said this on air before, but he had a tumor. His whole left leg was a tumor. And I was scared of that. The nurses made me scared of it. I didn't change his diaper. I didn't unwrap him. And now as a mama, I'm like, I don't know what his bottom looked like. I don't know, what the top of his legs looked like.
But when you have somebody who's gone through that loss, they know to ask you some questions of things that you may regret later. We have about a minute left in the show, Bekka, which I hate. Time is flying so fast. But I just want to mention that the Lord led you to be now a doula. Specifically, you help live babies, but also specifically people who know that they're going to have to go through this. What an amazing, like, God equipping you to be able to help others. I can't imagine anyone getting that devastating news, to have someone like you who's not only a lifeline, who's been through through it, but can point to Jesus to say, there is hope at the end of this. I've been at the bottom, and I know that God is enough.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
That's what I want Miles' legacy to be, and that's his story that I want told to impact every single person who comes into contact with him or with me, because that's how he lives on, and like that's his whole life right there. Yeah.
Well, if they're in the Florida area, they can connect with you. Is that correct?
Yes, North Central Florida.
Well, tell us your Instagram handle real quick and how they could connect with you.
Yep. So I'm at bekka.xo.co. I also have a website, bekkaxo.com. Yes, I offer services, but I'm always available to just chat and talk virtually through these stories with these women.
Yeah, and you're so easy to talk to. I will have to say that. We have memoed each other multiple times now. So, Bekka, thank you so much for coming on, and we will have to have you on again to talk about your actual work, okay?
I would love that so much. Thank you. This is such a blessing.
Thank you. You guys, thank you again for joining us on Hannah's Heart, and we'll see you next week.